This is God's Family Plan 22 of 23. Family Holidays. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim McCotter. Welcome. Uh, God's law even mandated specific holidays for families to be together, celebrating Him in love and festivity. The word holiday originally came from God's mandate for having holy days. The word holy means separated. These were to be special days of families to separate from work and everything else to celebrate the Lord together. These holy days were not some somber, boring religious days, but more like the spirit and joy of how most Christians celebrate Christmas or Thanksgiving holidays. Celebrating the birth of God's Son, or rejoicing with thanksgiving for all that the Lord has abundantly provided us. Most people can't imagine the joy of keeping God's law, to have festivals and celebrations with family and friends. Though God's law for family holidays was under the ceremonial law, and therefore not specifically applicable for today, the principle for families today is unavoidable. 4 family holidays. Number 1, the weekly family holiday, or weekly Sabbaths, were found in Exodus 20, verse 8 through 11. The word Sabbath means rest. God commanded everyone everywhere to stop all work for one full day every week. All the family was to come together to rest from all their work and to take the day to enjoy one another and praise the Lord. Today, many nations stop work on Sundays, never realizing God ordained this in His law. Not just to stop work, but to come together as family and celebrate the Lord. At the time God's law was originally given, no nation in the world had any such thing as a weekly Sabbath rest law. Number 2, the 3 annual family holidays. 3 festivals in Exodus 23, 14 through 17. 3 times a year for about a week, everyone was to stop all work and go on a big trip together to their capital city. Each of these 3 family holidays were for celebrating something different. Number 1, the festival of Passover, for God giving them their miraculous deliverance from the bondage of slavery under Egypt's godless rulers, and now freedom under God's law. This celebration was every spring right before the planting season. Number 2, festival of first harvest, to celebrate God always giving them successful early harvest. This was celebrated right after the first harvest every summer. Number 3, festival of final harvest, to celebrate their prosperity in the fall after the great final harvest of that year. And it's interesting that God wanted them to celebrate their prosperity sleeping in tents outside for a week. However, the kids may have loved it, but God wanted them to never forget their roots, their forefathers who slept in tents for 40 years. That's why this celebration was also called the Feast of Booths or Shelters. Leviticus 23:42 says, "For 7 days you must live outside in little shelters," end quote. All 3 of these national family holidays were very unique and holidays that all in the family would never forget and look forward to every year. And then there was number 3, the 7-year family holiday, or 7-year Sabbath, found in Leviticus 25. Every 7th year, God commanded that all families take the entire 7th year off and not work the whole year. What an amazing and extended family holiday! This is where professors got the word and idea for taking a year-long sabbatical to travel and learn. God wanted that for all families, though it may not be practical living in a non-Christian nation that's not under God's law. But nonetheless, this is what God had in His law. But living in a nation under God and His law, Leviticus 25, 20 through 22 says, quote, "You might ask, what will we eat during the 7th year, since we are not allowed to plant or harvest crops that year? Be assured that I will send my blessing for you in the 6th year, so the Lord will produce a crop large enough for 3 years. When you plant your fields in the 8th year, you will still be eating from the large crop of the 6th year. In fact, you will still be eating from that large crop when the new crop is harvested in the 9th year." End quote. Moreover, This continued to replenish the ground nutrients, making their land always fertile. How wonderful when you're God and you obey your God for all he will do for you. Most people mistakenly think a nation under God's law would be a very oppressive and a life of bondage, but just the opposite is true. God is not a slave driver. He's a slave deliverer. God is a liberator. The Apostle John wrote in 1 John 5:3, his commandments are not burdensome, end quote. Of course, the same is true with God's Son Jesus. He said in Matthew 11:30, quote, for my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light, end quote. In addition to the start of the 7-year family holiday, every 7 years, all financial debt is to be canceled 100%. So just before your year-long sabbatical holiday, God's law eliminates all your debt. Is God's law great or what? The Apostle James wrote twice in James 1:25 and 2:12, quote, God's perfect law sets you free. And again, God's law sets you free, end quote. Number 4, the 50-year family holiday, 50-year jubilee, found in Leviticus 20:25. In addition to all the above festivals and holidays, God mandated a generational 50-year jubilee. Everyone is to take the full year off and do no work and celebrate the 50-year jubilee. God is indeed a God of joy and celebration. This was a once-in-a-lifetime generational celebration. Again, God promised to triple their crops, all debt to be canceled, not to work, go celebrate that year. But on the 50-year of jubilee, there was also one other law to be obeyed. If any family lost any of their land to any creditors or had to sell it for any reason, all such land was to be returned to the original family owner. Under God's national plan, every family was given a large plot of land from which they could make a good living. Thus, this law demonstrated God's intentional family plan for all families to live close together. It kept families with their married sons living close together for 2 reasons. Number 1, they could not remain on any other land that belonged to someone else. Number 2, the only land available for them to live on now was their original family's land. It is God's family plan for families to live near each other, to help support each other. 1 Chronicles 8:32 wrote, quote, all their families lived near each other, end quote. God's family plan is for families to remain close to each other, to build together their family dynasty, to obey God's moral law, and to celebrate a lot together.